with Kathy by Design, and this is Make and Take Tuesday. This is a little weekly series that I do here on my YouTube channel where I share a new paper collection, technique, tool, die, design, and we make something beautiful together. All this year we have been using Graphic 45's Flower Market collection to make monthly folios. And we are up to July, believe it or not. So I want you to grab, if you want to follow along, your July Flower Market 8x8 papers and your 12x12 July papers. And then I've got some green scraps from Patterns and Solids. I went into Cottage Life and grabbed some green Patterns and Solids because they'll come in handy. And then because this is a somewhat limited collection as far as variety and patterns, I always like to pull in another paper collection to kind of go with it and round out the corners. So I went through my stash and I found Ciao Bella's Microcosmos has some papers that are a beautiful match. And I'll just bring our, let me do this real quick. Do you see how well these go together? What I look for is hue and tone. So these greens are a very good match for these greens. And these yellows go very well with these yellows. And then this red is the same tone of red. So also it's a nature theme, so it's going to work very, very well. I was really excited when I found this in my stash. I think this folio is going to be exceptional. So if you have this collection, Microcosmos by Ciao Bella, pull it out and use it. If you don't have it, look through your stash because you probably have something that will work. And that's kind of what I'm showing you. Like, look, see how great this goes? It's not a match, but it goes together beautifully. So this is going to be really fun. I have this sheet with all the summer insects and then beautiful leafy greens and yellows here. There's this sheet that is just like beautiful watercolor. And on the back, we've got ladybugs. And then I've got this scrap of this leafy pattern. And then I pulled a bunch of 6x6 that I also had. And you want to stay away from the purpley, rosy, mauvey tones in this collection. Stick with the really clean greens, yellows, and reds. So then for our cardstock, this is 110-pound cardstock. I've got this green shade, and I think this is from Spellbinders. I'll link in the supply list so that you know. And then this is Paper Tray ink. This is called Lemon Tart. And these look beautiful with this. It's going to give it a really bright summer grass and sunshine feel. All right. I also pulled a whole bunch of fussy cuts and things like that from your Flower Market collection. You'll want these two journal cards, this little die cut from the die cut pieces, and this chipboard from the chipboard. So that's everything I needed to show you. I think we can go ahead and get started building this folio base. So here's what we're making, folks, is this beautiful July folio. I've accented with pops of this kind of tiger lily red and this garden green with lemon tart yellow. Added some sequins to the covers, lots of machine stitching and layering. And then inside, we've got this little flip page that has our tag and pocket with some die cut pieces and this little double layer butterfly. Flip this, here's a little stamp turned into a pocket. Here's our file folder with one of the journal cards, a sweet little snail image and a ladybug. Lots of snails and ladybugs in this one. I love it. It's so cute. This little snail is adorable. Here he is again, and then a little pocket. Ladybugs over here, and a little snail and a little ladybug in the pocket. Down here, we've got this large stamp And then I made a pocket with another little ladybug in there. And then our 6x6 folio, all layered up with pretty papers and lined on the inside with more beautiful papers. This flips open, and on the left, we've got this little tuck spot with a belly band, with a journal card, little framed postage stamp. Inside here is just beautiful paper. I didn't want to cover it up. So you could put a photo here with a little journaling tag. Here's our July calendar with the butterfly tag inside there. And then over here on the right, we've got another little flip page with our bookmark. This flips open, and we've got a large waterfall with room for big photos or just enjoy the beautiful papers. Over here, we've got a little photo spot or journaling spot, a little tuck pocket with various tags and ephemera bits in there. Then we come to the inside of the left, where I've got this really fun kinetic waterfall that you're going to learn how to build. So easy and really fun once you learn how. Another little snail image in this pocket. Here's our little policy envelope, and there's a little wee tag inside here. And a tag also in the pocket. Of course, you can put photos in there or receipts or whatever. And then our center pocket, I just put in some large photo mats. There's lots of room in here. It's an expandable pocket, so you can tuck in receipts or photos or whatever you want there. So that is our July Flower Market Folio of the month. Okay, before we get started, I thought I would just go over a couple little organizational things with you. Because I use the Graphic 45 dies with this, I go ahead and I get all my die cutting done before I start my project. So we are going to use the ornamental dies that have all the pretty butterflies and things like this, and the clock. We're going to use some labels. We're going to use this tag and pocket die, and I cut my tags out of my designer paper because it's so pretty inside there. We're going to use this file folder die, and we're going to use this policy envelope die and this frame. So go ahead and get those all done and then set them aside, and then it just saves you time in the long run. You don't have to keep running back and forth in the middle of creating. So that's one of the things I do to save me time. Now, grab your 2 pieces of 8.5 by 11 heavy cardstock and place 1/4-inch score tape on the end, the 8.5-inch end of one piece. Then you're going to bring in the other piece, and you're going to use this score tape as a guide to help you line these 2 pieces of paper together and join them to make one big long panel. Then you're going to bring in your scoring tool, and you're going to score this 4 and then 4 3/8. Hold on this 4 3/8 inch score line. And you're going to score it at 8.5. and 8 7/8. So this becomes your folio top and bottom. You've got a 3/8 inch score line on the bottom, you've got a 3/8 inch score line on the top. And this short flap actually goes inside and becomes our pocket. So this is what your folio will look like when you get this part done. Then you're going to bring in 2 pieces of 8.5 by 8.25 inch cardstock. And again, you can see I've put score tape on one end and score a 1/2 inch and then score 3/8. All right, so this one is going to go, bring your folio in. This one's going to go on the right, okay? And I'm gonna line this up in between my scored lines so that it's nice and straight and we're kind of even at the top and the bottom. I'm gonna remove my score tape and I'm just gonna fold this over like this. All right? So now we have a right hand flap. Repeat the same thing on the left. Again, I'm just going to line this up on the left so that I'm centered between this top score line and this bottom score line. Make sure I'm nice and straight here. It shifted on me when I removed that tape. All right, so now we've got our left hand flap. All right, so the pocket goes on the inside, left hand flap, right hand flap, and you're good to go. There's your folio base all built. Now we're going to make our expandable pocket, and this is a 1 1/4 by 3 7/8 inch piece of our yellow cardstock. I've scored it every 1/4 of an inch to make this little accordion fold pleat. And I'm going to take my adhesive and put it on the side. You can see I've already installed the one on the left. So now we're going to install the one on the right. And I'm going to line the edge of my gusset up with the edge of my paper so that it's nice and straight. And I'm just going to press this down. And now I can come back, put adhesive on this flap, and this is going to fold right inside your folio. You want to make sure that you go in straight and that you're not over your score line. So see, now you've got this nice, well, once it sets up, you've got this nice pocket that will expand so you can put bills or receipts or memos or photos, whatever you want in there. And then we've got our flap. I'm going to go ahead and go to work on our cover now. And I pulled from my stash this almost maraschino cherry red panel. And this is cut to 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then I've matted it on our green, which is 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. Then I went into my 8 by 8 and I cut 4 1 inch by 8 inch strips of our designer paper. And we're just going to make mitered corners here. This is a real paper saver and it looks really sharp. So I've put two of my papers together so that they're perpendicular, and I'm making a straight cut from the inside corner to the outside corner. Now these corners will match up and we'll be able to build a frame for our cover. But it gives us that extra panel of paper that we'll be able to use somewhere else. So I'm going to start with this piece on the bottom, and I'm not going to glue the whole thing down because I like to stitch around the perimeter of mine, but I am going to put just like a little strip of adhesive to hold it in place. All right, friends, let's go ahead and put this cover together. As you can see, I stitched around the outside edge, and I also put just a little tiny bit of adhesive in between these mitered corners just to help them keep their place. So here's our large image from the 12 by 12, and I've stitched back behind it just a bit of a piece of the 8 by 8 border. And this is going to go, we're just going to put this down. So they were sort of centered at the top and the bottom. And then I took my little July calendar from the 8 by 8 and I partially matted it on slightly larger pieces, and that's because it's going to tuck right under here like this. So there's no need to mat the whole thing. So now we can press all of this down. That looks really good. Then I took this Sweetness title and we're just going to glue this down, I think right here. I don't want to cover up my stitching. And then from our 8 by 8, I've got this little 7 to indicate the month. And I might put just the tiniest thin foam tab back there. Then I have the 8 by 8 laughter medallion that we're just going to line up with our outside edge of our yellow mat and press in place. And then I have this sweet little charm that I'm going to put just some string through, any string, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to suspend it off the side. So I just finished this off with a few sequins scattered around to give it a little bit of sparkle and shine. And you can see I glued the chipboard to the bottom right hand corner of our little butterfly tag. This is from the 8 by 8. So pretty simple, but very beautiful. I love the colors in this. It's really bright. Okay, now we can start work on the inside. So in our inside top flap, I've cut a 12" by 8 1/4" piece of my Microcosmos. And this, I matted the back side of the front cover with an 8 3/8 inch piece of the green just to stabilize it, because I wanted the front cover to be really sturdy. So I scored this at 8 1/4 and then folded to make our flap. I glued down back to back the fancy die cut trim. Here's the large butterfly, and then I took the butterfly halves and die cut those and put those in the center. This is left over from die cutting the clock, and I just put this in there to draw attention to nature and this sweet little bee. Here's the inside of the clock where I put butterfly, and then here's our little note holder. So if you'll flip this open, take your file folder, and I had the inside of a die cut frame, like if you die cut this frame right here, you're going to have the inside part, and I just cut that in half and glued it around the sides of our file folder so that it would be sturdy. Then I took this pretty image from Microcosmos, I put it inside and then traced so I could get the cutaway part in there to show. And this is going to go right here, just like that. I don't want to cover up our cute snail and rose, so what I'm going to do is put this down kind of up here and over toward the fold like this. And then you can just take some sweet little journal cards from Microcosmos and stick those over here on this little flap page. I took one of our little cut aparts and added folded pieces of paper to the back of it to make these little gussets. We're going to glue this down right here on the flap. And let's take our little snail tag and tuck him in there. He's super cute. And maybe a ladybug tag. So we can take this little snail journaling card and put it up on the top flap. So I just took this the larger postage stamp and put glue on 3 sides and put it down here as a little pocket, and then added a sweet little tag because I don't want to cover up all this beautiful paper. And then I put one of our 3x4 journal cards in this pocket with the other 2 images. So that finishes up this top flap. So pretty. All right, now I want to start working on our right flap. And I cut a piece of green cardstock to 7 3/8 by 8 because I want to line this. The yellow to me needs this pop of bold color to kind of ground everything. So I'm going to build this off the flap and then we'll put it on the flap. This is going to be our side pocket, and we've got this 4 by 8 inch piece of our Flower Market paper. I trimmed this down to just over 7 and what is that? Just over 7 3/4. It's like just a narrow margin. And I'm going to glue this down. Now we want to make our side pocket. So I've got a piece of my Patterns and Solids. This is 4 3/4 inches wide by 9 inches high. We're going to put this on our scoring tool, and I'm going to score right along this branding strip because that gives me the most use out of my patterned paper. And then I'm going to turn this and score a 1/2 inch here, and turn it again and score a 1/2 inch here. So you've got a 1/2 inch score line along the top and the bottom and scored along the branding strip. Come in with your scissors, and right where those score lines meet is where you want to cut in your pocket, like that. fold on the score lines. And see how neat they are. It just makes a really beautifully turned pocket. Bring in your page, and this is going to glue down right here. So it's going to actually cover the green. You can come in a little bit so you have a little green border on the right if you want, just to kind of ground everything. Because I just find that these pastel colors need a little bit more vibrant accents to keep them from looking washed out. That's just my taste, though. That doesn't have to be your taste. I'm going to line this up. See? Beautiful, beautiful pocket. And then this is kind of a fun thing I'm going to show you. I do this fairly often just to dress up our pocket. I've got a little scrap of my designer paper that I thought was really pretty. This is like 3 1/4 by almost 2 3/4. So from my green, I cut a 4 1/8 by 3 5/8 inch piece. And I'm going to mat this on here. You can use either side. I want the pattern side with the daisy and the ladybug. I'm going to center this so I have a little bit of a green line at the top. And there's my sides. I'm going to bring in my scoring tool. I'm going to line this up so that when I score, I have that little green border. And then trim out your corners. And we can actually trim some of the bottom off of this too, just like we did before. And now we've made a pocket to go on our pocket. Because really, can you ever have too many pockets? I don't think so. So we can glue this here on our pocket, just like that. Kind of center it up. Creates a little visual interest, which is nice. And then I've got this cute ladybug tag from the paper collection that can go inside. So to decorate this up, I found this little border piece that we cut from the 8x8, and it fits perfectly at the top. I did very lightly ink the edges once again, just to help it to pop. So this is going to go right here. Just like that. And then I've got this postage stamp that we're going to put right here. And then in the pocket, of course, the tag, and then I found this little label so you can put a date or a word or something like that, just a tiny little journal spot, but it dresses up that pocket just that much more. Okay, so for the folio, you need 2 6-inch by 8.5-inch pieces of your yellow cardstock, and I switched to a little bit deeper shade of yellow. This is Paper Tray Ink Golden Harvest, and I will link to it in the supply list on my blog. And once again, we're going to put our score tape down. And join these 2 panels. We're going to bring in our scoring tool. We're going to score at 6. And you can actually come over here and score in an extra little line just to help that turn. Then score it at the bottom. And then trim this part off. Or you can make a pocket, it's up to you. I'm just gonna trim it off. Okay, I went into my stash of the 6x6 pad, which is actually only really 5 7/8 by 5 7/8, which makes it perfect. And I found this cute ladybug print. Then I took a 5 7/8 inch piece of our Patterns and Solids, the green botanical, and I cut it to 2 1/4 inches. And we're going to lay this down in the center. And then we're going to bring in our border strip. I'm just going to do this the lazy way, put my adhesive down. And I'm going to put this down on the top and then just trim it to fit. And then repeat this on the bottom. Then I took our larkspur image from the 8x8 pad and matted it on yellow and green just to make it pop a little bit. And we're going to put this right here. And then find your 7. Glue it down right here. Now we can glue it on the front. There we go. So I want my fold at the top. I'm going to mat my cover on my little folio. That's really sweet. Then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to adhere this piece of my Ciao Bella paper on the bottom. It's amazing to me how well these colors mix for this particular month of July. There's our little snail buddy. So now you've got room. You can add photos in there, or you can just enjoy the pretty paper. And this slips into our pocket just like this. This brings us over to our left-hand flap page. And what I want to do here, first of all, is place our magnets. So I've got these basic gray large magnetic snaps. And I want to place it on the right-hand side first. I'm going to come in right about here. Set that down. I'm going to place a little score tape over it. And then I'm going to take my opposite magnet and put it on top. Peel off the adhesive backing. This one, there we go. Now I want to make sure that my page is lined up and straight over here. And now I'm going to bring my right hand flap over and make sure I'm lined up and straight. And then I'm going to press down. Carefully lift it up. So that's where this magnet sits. And we're just going to put some score tape on top of it to hold it in place. All right. Now we're going to do our page. And I went into my Microcosmos and I found this 12-inch by 8-inch piece and scored it. at, well, so that this back part is 7 3/8. So whatever that ends up, I think it was 4 3/4. I lost my ruler here for a minute. Here we go. Yes, 4 5/8. I scored it at 4 5/8 on the left. And we're just going to go ahead and adhere this. And the thing that we're trying to do is tie all these different patterns together so that we have a cohesive looking piece. And so these little red ladybugs work really well because we had ladybug paper somewhere else, and it creates a feeling of consistency. All right, so press this down, and now see these strong magnets will hold even through multiple layers of paper, which is really neat. All right, and then we're going to bring in our little ATC, our little policy envelope that we had die cut earlier. But to go inside, we've got this sweet little tag that just will sit inside. And then to hold this in place, I'm not going to use any glue. I'm going to take this strip of our designer paper, and I'm going to just fold a little flap on each side. I'm going to glue the flaps down to our paper panel, just like this. Then this will sit inside. I've got this little label that we can put on the cover. And then I had him, but I don't know where he went. Here he is. Our little fussy cut slug. We can actually glue just like this along the bottom and on his little ears. I guess those are technically his eyes. And that keeps this from falling out, but you can still pull it out and put it in. So we've created like a little tuck spot down there. And then we have this little frame. Right here. And I'll come back with my glue and I'll catch those little open ends. And I'm going to take this little postage stamp and center it inside the frame. And then I'll just take my glue and do like this. This is Dries Clear adhesive, so it doesn't leave like weird marks behind. So it's nice when you're gluing down detail pieces like this. I'm going to keep the inside of this pretty plain because it's just so beautiful to look at. I don't want to cover it up. It kind of tells a story. So I'm just going to make a simple, I call these U-style pockets, where you just put your adhesive on the sides and the bottom. I'm going to glue this down here like this. And then I'm going to take our large tag and tuck it inside. And I'm going to take our clock and glue it down up here in this corner. Then just add this little journaling label with the ladybug on it here. take this little word and put it in the center. Okay. So this gives you lots of room to add a pretty photo here and just enjoy. You could even put a photo up here, but it's just so pretty. I don't want to cover it up, so I'm not gonna. This brings us to our inside left flap. And for this, I took an 11 by 8 piece of our green cardstock and I scored it at 3 5/8. And this is going to go down right here, but I don't want to glue it in now. It's easier to work with this if we don't glue things in. So I'm going to move this. I did make a change here because our little ATC envelope was kind of thick. It interfered with the magnet. So I took it out from here and I just put this little journal card in instead. And now the magnet works much better. Okay, so let's bring this piece in. Open this up. And on the inside, I've cut a 7 1/8 by 7 1/8 inch square of our designer paper, Flower Market. I'm going to put this down. And then I cut a pocket piece from the, look how pretty that is together. This is also 7 1/8, and the width was, I don't know, about 3 5/8. It was just a scrap. So I scored a little line on the bottom. This is going to be the bottom of our pocket, but we don't need the whole width of this pocket. So we're just going to put adhesive on the sides like this and glue this down. So now that can go in there, and put a little tag. And we can decorate our pocket with our little snail buddy. And that gives you a journaling spot too. And then over here, I just have this 3 1/2, I believe, by 7 7/8 inch piece. You can either go with the ants, or you can go with the leaf. I think I'm going to go with the ants just for the contrast. And then this can be a place where you can put some photos. This folds over. And now I want to build a little Kinetic waterfall on the front of this. So I've taken a 3 1/2 by 12 inch piece of my paper, and I folded it in half at 6. And then on the bottom half, I scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 score lines. Then I took this piece of our border, and this is 4 3/4 inches, and I folded the flaps. I folded flaps. This is going to go actually behind like this. And this comes down about 5/8 of an inch from the bottom. And you're going to place adhesive right here. And adhesive right here. Like that. And then this piece is cut to 3 1/2 to fit over the top, but you're only going to put your adhesive here and your adhesive here. So now when you pull on the back, your little folded lines will flap up. And we need some sort of a pull down at the bottom. So I'm going to take, just going to pull this down. I'm going to take our little laughter die cut and put adhesive on the top edge. All right. And now I have these images. I'm going to start with the Earth Laughs in Flowers. And I'm just going to put adhesive right along this top edge and glue this down right above the fold. So you can see when we pull, it flips. Do you see that? So now pull and come down to the next one. And let's take this little image and then pull. And here's a little rose. And then we have this little bee. And then pull. And then I have this little journal card. All right. So see? Isn't that fun? And to glue this down, you put your adhesive just on this band. All right. And I'm not going to pull it right now because that glue needs to set. But then when you pull your little tab, all your little flips work. And I want to cover up this little piece at the bottom. So here it is, all glued into the folio. I cut this 3.5 by 1 3/4 inch piece of our Flower Market paper, and I put this little journal card here. And look, you can pull this. So pretty. It's so pretty, and it's so fun to do. Oops. That glue needs to be completely set up. Sometimes, like your little, like it pulls great this way, but when you're going back up, you need to make sure you scooch underneath that little band. So there is that page all finished. This brings us over to the inside of our right-hand flap page, and I'm going to do a mirror image of what we just did on the left. So this is an 11 by 8 inch piece of our green cardstock. It's scored at 7 3/8 inches to make this little flap. I removed my magnet because I was afraid that these layers would make it too heavy. Glue this down. And now I'm gonna reset my magnet. All right. Just make sure that's right. Yes. Okay. And I'm going to put another piece of score tape on this just to make sure that that stays put. So if you're watching this before you make yours, remember, don't set this magnet until you have this page in. But even if you don't, it's not the end of the world because, as you can see, it's easily remedied. All right, so I'm working with scraps now. This is where it gets exciting. And I've got this 3.5 by 7 1/8 inch scrap of our Flower Market. That I'm going to put on the flap. And then I had a 4.5 by, it's almost 3 3/4. And I just scored, again, these are scraps, and I scored 1/2 inch flaps to make a deep pocket. Oops. And this is where we'll put our bookmark when we get that made. Got this sweet little border piece. So let me just mark this right here with my thumb. And you want to cut this. Of course, it's 3.5 inches. Okay. All right, we are just about finished. So this is our inside right-hand flap. And I did the same thing, you know, where we put our green down. Then I cut a 7 1/8, I believe it is. Yes, by 7 3/4 inch piece of this patterned paper from Microcosmos. And then I cut 2, bring in my scoring tool. These are 6 1/8 by 6 5/8. And we're going to score 1/2 inch flaps on the top of each of them. And we're just going to put another little flip element in because I've got a couple of pieces of my 6 by 6 paper left. So why not? And remember, my paper is not, this is not really quite 6 by 6. It's more like 5 7/8 by 5 7/8. So I've got this cute one with the ants and the ladybugs. And I've got this pretty one. So use the green side. And I think I want this one on the top. The back side is going to be blank unless you happen to have paper in your stash to cover it. And I'm going to leave this exactly like it is because I do not want to cover up that beautiful dragonfly. Then over here, I had this little piece of border left that I had fussy cut. And I'm just going to ink the cut edge up a little bit. All right, and I folded in the sides a little bit. It'll still fit down here. I'm going to put my adhesive, whoops, that was exciting, on my sides. And just a little bit along the bottom. And then I have this little 3 by 4¼ inch piece of my patterns and solids that I'm going to put right here. This can be used as a journaling spot or as a photo mount, whichever you prefer. And then in that little pocket, I've got some little bits and bobs left. I've got this cute little bee image. I've got a tiny little tag. And let's see, we can put this little label over here. I just put adhesive on the bottom, on the top edge. So this can be like a journaling spot, but it also works as a turn tab for our pages. And then down here, I'm going to put this die cut frame. I just used some of my scraps of the Microcosmos paper. I'm going to put it right here. And then I've got this little die cut word. This is dragonfly. So that's that. We can put this piece on the bottom one as a pull, as a turn tab. And then we've used up all our little bits and bobs, which always makes me happy. All right. That's good. And then got this little piece right here. That brings us to our pocket that we made here. And for our bookmark, I've got a 3 1/4 by 5 1/4 of the yellow, and then a 3 1/8 by 5 1/8 of the green. And I'm not going to go around the edges because I'm going to stitch this. Then I have this scrap of the green that is 3 by about almost 4 1/4. It's just a scrap. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to cut this last little piece of our Flower Market to 3. And put it on the bottom. I'm going to go stitch this on my sewing machine, and then what I'll do is put my laughter here and my last big postage stamp here. I actually fussy cut this out of a piece of patterned paper, and that will be our bookmark. And I might go underneath. I'll figure that out when I get to that point. But anyway, this I'm going to go stitch on my sewing machine. That's pretty much everything. Now we just have to glue our cover on. So let's fold this all up. It always looks so amazing when you add the cover. I'm just going to let that set while I go stitch up my bookmark. But there we are, guys, our July 2023 Graphic 45 Flower Market Folio, Sweetness and Laughter. That's a good one. All right, thanks for joining me. I'm going to go get my craft on. Bye.